Right, good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get the meeting started. This is the Community Consolidated School District 46 Board of Education meeting, Wednesday evening, April 10th, beginning at 6 o'clock. I need a roll call and a call to order, please.
Stephen Mack.
Here.
Nash.
Here.
Braden. Absent. Jessica Albert.
Here.
LaCroix.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
And Weedman. Absent.
Okay, that's quorum. Please join me for the pledge.
Annabelle Appel.
Here.
August Wolt.
Here.
Welcome to our student representatives to the board table this evening. Welcome, August. Welcome, Annabelle. We're glad to have you here this evening. I do need a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Nash.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments signed up?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, thank you. Okay, and it is my pleasure to hand over now the microphone for the recognition this evening for the Park Campus boys and girls basketball teams.
Sorry. Esteemed guests, teachers, parents, and most importantly, our exceptional basketball teams. Honorables miembros de la Junta de Educación, estimados invitados, maestros, padres y madres, y los más importantes, nuestros excepcionales equipos. It is with great pride and excitement that I stand in front of you today to recognize and celebrate the outstanding achievements of our 6th and 7th grade boys and girls basketball teams. Their dedication, hard work, and passion for the sport have led them to an incredible victory in the championship, bringing glory to our school and community. Con gran honor y emoción, me paro ante ustedes hoy para reconocerles y celebrar sus sobresalientes méritos en nuestras temporadas de los equipos de baloncesto de 6º y 7º grado. Su dedicación, esfuerzo y pasión por el deporte les han llevado a una increíble victoria en la final, trayéndonos gloria a la escuela y a la comunidad. To our boys team, your determination, teamwork, and unwavering spirit on the court have not gone unnoticed. Your impressive skills and sportsmanship have set a high standard for excellence, and we commend each and every one of you for your contribution to this remarkable accomplishment and season. Para el equipo de los chicos, su determinación, trabajo en equipo e inquebrantable espíritu en la pista han sido notorios. Sus impresionantes habilidades y deportividad han marcado un alto estándar de excelencia y felicitamos a todos y cada uno por su contribución en este remarcable logro y temporada. And to our girls team, your determination, perseverance, and unity have been truly inspiring. Your relentless pursuit of greatness and unwavering support for one another have resulted in an undefeated season and in a well-deserved victory that we are all immensely proud of. Y a nuestro equipo femenino, su determinación, perseverancia y unidad han sido de gran inspiración. Su incesante búsqueda de la grandeza e inquebrantable apoyo por los demás han resultado en una temporada sin perder ningún juego, una bien merecida victoria de la que estamos todos inmensamente orgullosos. Winning a championship is not just about the final score, it's about the journey, the growth, and the lessons learned along the way. These teams have exemplified the values of discipline, determination, and collaboration, showcasing what it means to be true champions, both on and off the court. I will keep in my memories the laughs, the talks about grades and behaviors, the dances before practices, and all those nerves switched to cheers during the games from the bench. It was an honor coaching all of you. Ganar la final no importa solo por el resultado. Lo que importa es el camino, el crecimiento y las lecciones aprendidas en el recorrido. Estos equipos son ejemplo de valores como disciplina, determinación y colaboración, enseñando lo que realmente significa ser verdaderos campeones dentro y fuera del campo. Guardaré en mi recuerdo las risas, las charlas sobre calificaciones y comportamientos, los bailes antes de las prácticas y esos nervios convertidos en aplausos durante los juegos desde el banquillo. Fue un honor entrenarles a todos y cada uno de ustedes. I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to my friend and co-coach, Mr. Ryan, whose guidance and support have been instrumental in shaping these exceptional athletes. His dedication to their development is truly appreciated, although he abandoned me tonight. Me gustaría extender mi enhorabuena a mi amigo y ayudante, el señor Ryan, cuya guía y apoyo han sido instrumentales en dar forma a estos maravillosos atletas. Su dedicación al desarrollo de estos chicos es verdaderamente apreciada, aunque hoy me haya abandonado. Lastly, I want to express my gratitude to the amazing parents for their huge commitment and the entire community for their unwavering support and encouragement throughout this journey. Por último, quiero expresar mi agradecimiento y gratitud a estos maravillosos padres por su enorme compromiso y a toda la comunidad por su inquebrantable apoyo y ánimos durante toda la temporada. Por su remarcable logro y por representar a la escuela con orgullo, honor y excelencia, for their remarkable achievement and for representing our school with pride, honor, and excellence, let us all join together in giving a thunderous round of applause to our boys, Nolan Ford, Finn Lemon, James Lucas, Ashton Moyer, Caleb St. Louis, Rylan McGrath, Brian Manzanga, Aiden Moyer, Owen Durlack, Juan Santana, Luke Jones, Seth Sangonio, Verton Freeman, and Chase Kania. And to our girls, Nina Alani, Sadra Alani, Grace Aronson, Emma Fuco, Lexi Leonard, Charlotte O'Connor, Katie Velez, Fernando Antonio, Grace Chanza, Tessa Fritz, Violet Harris, Everly Lehman, and Michaela Rowe. Thank you.
Okay, we do have some little awards for you here, if you'd like to come up to the board table, both the boys and the girls team. So let's gather up here for a little picture. That'd be great.
Did she coach both? Oh, no, she didn't coach both teams. Impressive. Sure. Cute kids. Yay.
Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations to you all on an amazing season. Okay, that brings us to the next item on this evening's agenda, which is our presentation from the leader of the pack. I'll hand that over to Mr. Malamed, or to you, yep, Ms. Boss, thank you.
Hello, welcome, thank you to our Board of Education, Dr. Glickman, Mrs. Gluck, and the D46 community. Thank you for inviting us back to share all of our wonderful things that have been happening at Park School.
Leader of the Pack consists of students in 7th and 8th grade working to help students' school activities, building a sense of community, and helping foster a positive learning environment.
Leader of the Pack has worked hard to create a positive environment at Park Campus, participating in many activities. Some of our favorites are working concessions, Spirit Fridays, Donut Days, and filling popcorn orders.
Leader of the Pack recently created Good Luck bags for IAR testing for students in 3rd through 8th grade to promote a positive testing environment. We also were helping with the OT Olympics, helping our younger students through obstacles and courses.
Leader of the Pack will also continue to fill out popcorn orders. To date, we have completed over 500 orders. We are excited to work on our trimester activities. Our last one was the scavenger hunt to help us understand what zone of regulation we fall into.
We have several events coming up at Park Campus, including grade level music showcases, 8th grade events, and the car show.
Our 8th graders had a chance to vote what they felt was easy, hard, and easiest what their future holds. Here are some of the results. The slide indicates the easiest subject, which they voted was PE, followed by history. Mr. Ryan usually put his materials online so I could work ahead. The topics are interesting. I enjoyed science and loved to do the projects. The Cyrillium was easier than the projects or other classes. The subjects were easy to learn and were taught maybe too well, all subjects. You just play sports and have fun. You don't really have any homework. It was easy to understand, and I had a lot of resources if I was confused.
Some of the 8th graders had voted that math was the hardest challenge and most challenging, and also had the most work. But others thought that most challenging subject was ELA, history, and lastly, science.
Did the 8th graders try their best? Well, most of the time. Although 89% said we did all the time or most of the time. Despite all the changes in curriculum, students did very well and are proud of themselves.
8th graders feel they are ready for high school. Here are some things they learned that are important for next year. I learned to communicate with my teachers and make friends. It'll be hard, but try your best. Be respectful, take care of your grades, and finish your homework. Stay on top of my work and pay attention. I learned the basics of geometry, and I improved my grammatical skills. To pay attention, take school seriously, but not too serious where it affects your mental health.
Leader of the Pack has given us the opportunity to become more involved in school. We have taken a leadership role to voice our concerns and celebrations at Park Campus. We have been able to work with staff members to help continue to make Park Campus an excellent place to learn.
And lastly, we would like to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Glickman, Ms. Gluck, Mr. Malamed, and Ms. Morales, and the D46 community for allowing us this time to share our celebrations and what's in store for Park Campus next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, I'll open the board for questions or comments.
Thank you so much for sharing what you guys have been up to. I have a question for one of the leaders of the pack, and forgive my ignorance, but I am not familiar with what a paw print order is, nor what it means to fulfill one. Could someone explain that to me?
Paw print orders are pretty much if you do good stuff in classes or in general, you get something that's kind of like a ticket, I would say. It's kind of like the currency of our school. And paw print orders, if you have, like, let's say 15 paw prints, you're able to get like a fidget or something for your pencil. You put that in a little bag, you check what you want, and people of Leader of the Pack, they deliver it to your classroom.
So are these prizes already on site? Like there's a stash of them in the school and you just fulfill them and bring them to the person who ordered it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so excellent job, Leaders of the Pack. I am just sitting here with goosies, as they say, because you guys did a phenomenal job. I had a question and a comment. I'll start with my comment. I think one of the closing leaders said the biggest thing that you learned was around communicating. And that is so important as you guys are going to high school, being able to advocate for yourselves, articulate what your needs are to help your teachers or administrators lean into your needs to help you continue to grow and develop. So many adults don't get the need to be able to self-advocate and articulate their needs to help them be better, best, great. So the fact that you guys are 8th graders and you get that, that's amazing. Kudos, right? And then my question is, I think it's very encouraging, those feel-good packs around the IAR testing that you guys did. I thought that was awesome to just help just take off the anxiety or whatever around like testing itself. Have you guys shared or cascaded that exercise to some of your peer schools in the district?
I'll take that question. So several years back, before the COVID era, we used to do these for the students in 3rd through 8th grade. So we had like a bookmark in there with a saying. They had a pencil that says good luck. So just little items, a little eraser to try to help them on their math test if they make a mistake or work on their skills. So we just kind of instituted that again now this year, especially with Leader of the Pack, and they're really involved with really helping with the K-4 students. So they wanted to do something to show them. So I don't know if it's consistent at the other schools. We just thought it was a way to just say, hey, good luck, congratulations for making it to this point.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's,
take your time.
It's worth sharing. Yeah, good job. Thank you.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of pencil anxiety in my household around testing time, so I'm sure that helps a lot.
So I wanted to thank you too for this presentation. I know it took some work to put together. I also have a question. You had a survey or some feedback from 8th graders, and I'm just curious, how did you come up with that information? What was your process?
So it kind of came from a collaboration of the teachers. They just kind of wanted to get a sense of how 8th grade went this year, and we kind of just kind of rolled with it, and we did some Googling about what are some end of the year questions that perhaps a staff member might give to their class, and we just wanted to give it in kind of generalities to see how they felt school went and how their K-8 careers, because most of the kids have been here since kindergarten. So we just kind of see how it has progressed over the years.
I have a follow-up to that then. Mechanically, did you utilize like Google Form or Google Questions? I'm not familiar with Google so well, but is that the mechanics you went?
Yes. So we put them into the Google form, and then we were able to get a spreadsheet and turn that into the graphs. And then with each question, there was a follow-up for a response. And so what you saw on those slides were just some of the responses from the students.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I just want to let you know how proud we are of you. I think it's wonderful that you're taking a leadership role. It's a reflection of who you are as future leaders. It's a reflection of the wonderful work that your teachers are doing in the classroom, and that you have a voice and that you're sharing it with us. And I just want to let you know that we hear you, and we're really proud of what you're doing. Thank you for being here tonight.
Of course, we'll have two of these members joining us for the rest of the board meeting, and they may lend their voice to some topics this evening as well.
Thank you very much. That brings us to our board reports for this evening. So I'll start with Mrs. Albert this evening and go this way.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you to the district staff for providing the students the opportunity to experience the solar eclipse on Monday. I feel it's important as a public education institution to tap into science that is right outside our doors, and so I appreciate all the logistics that had to go into making that happen. Because as many of us probably experienced, it's a moment of collective awe and joy, and these students are going to remember this for the rest of their lives. I want to give an update. Foundation 46 has Barn Fest very soon, April 20th. I believe tickets are still available, and their spring grant cycle is open until May 15th for teachers. My thing's not working. All right, CEC, Community Engagement Committee update. We had a very fruitful meeting earlier this week, and I want to highlight a specific time that we always dedicate in these monthly meetings. We call it the Wisdom Exchange, and it's a time when they share ideas and information with each other. And all of the attendees have said that this is probably one of the most beneficial things that they get out of those monthly meetings, and they learn what's working well, gain tips and information from each other, and one of them actually pointed out, hey, this is actually, we're creating equity by doing this wisdom exchange each week. And they talked about maybe wanting to do a conversation at least with the Equity and Inclusion Committee at some point, and I think that might be a good opportunity to share learnings and language with each other. Something for us to consider. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that, let me grab my notes because the computer's not working for me. I did the optional board member trauma-informed training recently. And if you haven't done it, fellow board members, I recommend it. It's only 40 to 60 minutes. It's Dr. Bolton, who we're familiar with. And then a person named Christine Argue-Mason. She's the executive director of Partnership for Resilience. And if you don't have time, but you want to learn my 3 key takeaways, just let me know. We can have a quick conversation, or I can email you a short email. I also attended the most recent Advocacy Ambassador Lunchtime meeting. And once again, I'm learning how grateful I am for what the IASB does for us. They are tracking 1,000 bills, 1,000. And you may be aware that one thing that they have been focusing on is mandate reform. There were 4 bills that were being looked at. They're looking to combine those into one, and there'll be a mix of the 4 suggestions. And then the legislators are creating a working group on that topic. And the chief sponsor is a fairly local state rep. I think he's from the Buffalo Grove area. And as we know, our own district state rep and state senator are right in our backyard and very open to us setting up meetings with them. So I just want to plug us advocating a little more in that area in education with our representative and senator. And it's super easy to sign up for texts and emails with the IASB to get those file witness claim alerts. It's literally text a number and say you want to receive it, and then fill out the form. So I'll share that with all of you tomorrow or tonight in an email. And then my last board report item is that April is the call for resolutions time, and do we as a board want to change or add anything to the IASB position statements? And if so, we'll want to discuss and have, bear in mind that the deadline is mid-June. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Mack. Thank you for that insightful board report. The first thing that I wanted to say is a thank you to all the administrators and staff working through GMS. And we're approaching graduation season, and all the GMS, planning and dances and graduation events are nothing's missing a beat. And that is a testament to the hard work and dedication and just laser focus of the district administrators led by our superintendent, Dr. Glickman. And it's been so seamless that my 8th grader, who was kicking and screaming going to University Center, like, wait, we had school break, we were in middle school, I'm going back to school, I'm going to college, is like, I don't want to go back. So I know the transition dates are quickly approaching to head back to our actual GMS school at month end, and I know Dr. Glickman, you'll go into greater detail about that, but just wanted to say what an outstanding job the team has done, not only during this period of transition, but just keeping the norms for the kids to the point that they don't even want to go back home, if you will. The next thing I wanted to just share is our annual Juneteenth celebration Walk of Freedom will be coming up again this year. So Juneteenth is actually June 19th. Those words blended together make up Juneteenth. It is a federal holiday, and we've been celebrating in our community for the better part of 3 years or so now. This year's event will be observed on Monday, June 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. And more information will be coming out in community blasts and publications, but just wanted to plant the seed that that is coming in partnership with support from our district, as well as partners at the Grays Lake Area Public Library, the Grays Lakes Center and Heritage Museum. So it's a wonderful collective experience that's educational and fun for the entire family. I know, I know Mrs. Albert can't be as involved this year, but you continue to lend your support and expertise in ways that we still are finding very valuable. So thank you for your support.
So I have 2 things. First is to thank Dr. Glickman and the administrators and teachers. I'm not sure who is in charge of this, but I learned that the glasses, the solar glasses that we all absolutely want our kids to put on as they're looking at the eclipse, were donated to, let me see, make sure I get this right, Astronomers Without Borders. And I love the idea of keeping those glasses out of the landfill, but also the fact that we're promoting safety and curiosity with groups outside of our district. So whomever was in charge of that, thank you for that.
Can I give credit where credit
Absolutely,
is due? We
please
should
do.
thank Mrs. Leslie Armstrong for bringing that to us. So thank you, Leslie, Mrs. Armstrong.
Thank you. The second thing is, as you know, April 24th, at that meeting, we're going to change things up a little bit in our board meeting, and it'll be a working board meeting. So, yeah, Brandon, would you mind throwing that up again? I wanted to give you a question just to think about as in the next 2 weeks, because we'll be talking about sustainability and kind of unapologetically looking at what we're doing really well and just focusing on that. And so I wanted just to give you a definition of what sustainability is, and then also the 3 pillars for Green Ribbon Schools, so that you can be thinking about that over the next 2 weeks, so that we can come together and kind of map that out, so that we have a shared understanding of where we are with sustainability in our district. So the definition is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And that's not my definition. It's actually from the Brundtland Report, which was written, I believe, in the 70s, if not before. And the Green Ribbon Schools have 3 pillars, and we adopted that when we talked with Wold, and this is reflected in the sustainability audit that they gave us. And those 3 pillars are reduced environmental impacts and costs. Obviously, we want reduced negative impacts on the environment. We want increased positive. Number 2 is improved health and wellness for everyone involved in our school community. And then third is effective environmental and sustainability education. So little things, big things, if we can all be thinking about that, it'll help us map it out so that we have a shared understanding. And it's kind of that sweet spot in between those 3 things, that's the sustainability sweet spot. So if we can be thinking about that over the next 2 weeks in your free time, that would be great, and then we can map it out.
Are you able to share that slide with the members?
Yes, I can email it to you, and then I can also, in the education adequacy report, the sustainability audit findings are in there, and it's every school has findings, and it's got kind of an overview of what I just described, but also links if you want to dive in even deeper. So I can send both to you. Yep.
I have 2 small things. Just in June, the IASB executive board that I'm serving on will be meeting, at which time we'll start talking about the upcoming programs at the dinners that we are able to attend twice a year. So I'll bring back an update in late June or whenever we have our summer board meetings. And a shout out as well to the jazz band for their performance downtown, was it last week now or 2 weeks ago, at the Chicago Jazz Showcase, a stage that has been around in Chicago since 1942. And on that stage, the likes of Ella Fitzgerald and Duke Ellington have performed. And to see some of our incredible jazz musicians perform on such an illustrious stage was a great thing. So I was a benefit to be able to see that. So congratulations to them as well. And those are my 2 small little updates. I would like to open it to our student representatives if they have anything additional to say. Mr. Wolt and Ms. Appel.
Park Campus has been full of excitement for the past couple of months. Our 8th graders visited the Holocaust Museum and had the Rambassadors from Grays Lake Central come over and talk to us about high school. In 7th grade, students have been making newspapers out of fairy tales. They are working well in their groups, while 6th grade is starting their medieval unit, and 5th grade continues to promote kindness and positivity with their SEL activities.
Our kindergarten through 4th grade students continue to shine in their classrooms. Our kindergarten through 2nd classrooms just finished up a food drive collecting over 200 cans and goods. Ms. Farmer has arranged for 6th graders to work with some more struggling first grade readers to practice reading. Both groups really enjoy their time together. 2nd grade continues to transform their rooms, each month becoming a theme. This month has a sports theme. There are lessons each day with the theme of the month. 3rd and 4th grade has IAR Olympics, helping to prepare for IAR testing.
Park Campus continues to work on our weekly SEL lessons as well as our monthly themed lesson. This month, we are focusing on resilience and to overcome struggles in our daily lives. Our trimester 2 whole activity was a scavenger hunt, focusing on the zones of regulations, and the classes had great times working together.
Thank you very much for those updates. I will pass it over to Dr. Glickman for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Well, first, board, I just feel like taking a moment to thank you for your interest in having students at the board table. Just listening to these students talk and share with you what they are doing at school is, I think it's heartwarming, but it's also so informative for you because, you know, you make really important decisions and you don't have that many opportunities to see how it comes out in the end. And this is that opportunity, except for your own children, right? So this is that opportunity. So thank you for your interest in doing that. I'd like to welcome some audience members tonight. So, of course, we have already heard from some of our Park Wolves, and we're glad that you're still here. It looks like we have some high school students tonight. Yeah, are you from Central or from North? All 4 of you, okay, and you're here for civics class? Well, we're really glad that you're here. We hope that you'll learn a lot tonight. So welcome. And I'm going to hand this over to Mrs. Gluck, our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, to share some information, and then we'll move on from there.
All right, thanks. So good evening. I have a couple things I want to talk about. First, I just want to start off by also talking about the eclipse. Assume you knew we had one on Monday. So we were so excited to be able to provide all of our students and staff with the solar glasses, which we are now collecting to recycle. Thank you, Leslie. And it was so amazing. Even we were here watching students come outside at Frederick and just watching them go outside and just the amazement that you were able to see in students' faces as they were able to watch that eclipse was pretty cool. And I think even the adults liked it too. So really exciting for us. And then we provided some activities, instructional activities for teachers to use as well. In addition to the eclipse this April, we also have some other instructional opportunities. Earth Day is coming up on April 22nd, and so we've provided some activities for teachers for that. April is also National Poetry Month and Arab American Heritage Month. So all of those are some things that we will have some opportunities to learn about. So that is all what's happening in April. And then in addition to that, I just wanted to share an update about our 5-8 schedule. So you may remember that one of our curriculum strategic goals was related to investigating options for newer revised course offerings with emphasis on world language, dual language, and encore opportunities. And as we broke that down, we were exploring possible revisions to the structure of the day for grades 5-8, exploring considerations for world language, and exploring future encore opportunities. You may remember that last summer, when we gave you an update about our strategic plan and our strategic goals, that we held a planning and design team, a PDT, that met last school year. That team was made up of administrators and teachers from across the district and from including district office, but also from Park Campus, from Frederick School, and from GMS. And that team provided recommendations. So they did a lot of research together, had a lot of really deep conversation about what that would look like for students moving forward. This school year, we've had an administrator team working to talk about those recommendations further, doing some more research in regarding what other school district schedules look like, both in our surrounding area, but also outside of our area. And we're still working on some final details of what that schedule is going to look like, but more information will be coming soon and will be public as soon as we finish those final details. But we're getting pretty close and should have some more to share pretty soon.
Thank you, Mrs. Gluck. I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Diaz, our Director of Multilingual Programs.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that our Multilingual Parent Advisory Committee had a really outstanding year. We had 6 events for the district, and last week we had we ended with a glow party, and we have some really amazing parent dancers. So, little fun fact. In May 4th, we are going to go, and actually Miss Miller is joining us. We are going as a group of 8 to the Parent Summit in Oak Brook, where we get basically a whole day of conference, and there's parent civil rights meetings, breakout groups. A psychologist is coming. It's actually quite a really fun event, so we're looking forward to that. And then we have a newcomer curriculum council. We are inviting all of our newcomers, which is now 52 since October. So about 90 families are invited to come to Frederick on the 29th and just kind of give us an update, like what was really good for you, how can we help you, what are something that we can do for the next families who are coming. So it should be fun.
Thank you, Dr. Diaz. I want to say a few words about leadership in our Operations and Maintenance Department Board. So last Friday, Mr. Roberto Ochoa resigned his position as Director of Operations and Maintenance, and therefore is no longer working in the school district. And board, I know that you will join me in wishing Mr. Ochoa well in all his future endeavors. Also, at our very last board meeting, I brought you a contract from Gewalt Hamilton Associates, also known as GHA, to support the district through a consultancy engagement. And specifically, GHA appointed Mr. Scott Gonke to work here part-time, serving as both a project manager for our GMS restoration project and to provide consultancy support in our O&M department. So with Mr. Ochoa stepping down, we're very pleased that Mr. Gonke has agreed to be with us full-time for the time being. And so he's at the table this evening and will be here kind of on and off for board meetings throughout the rest of this school year. And in a moment, he'll be providing you an update regarding the restoration at GMS. I also want to mention that we are not planning to post for a new director of O&M, operations and maintenance, for the next school year. Instead, we are going to be having what we call a purposeful pause as we consider our next steps for leadership in the operations and maintenance department. So we're going to continue with interim leadership in that department into the 24-25 school year. This gives us time to carefully consider our district needs and then post for a new leader in the department. And then finally, moving on to GMS restoration, Mr. Gonke is going to be providing an update, but I'm going to start with a spoiler, and Mrs. Nash kind of sprinkled it in as well, and I appreciated that, so we're building together. Indeed, we continue to march towards an end of April completion date. So here is our planned timeline, which we have shared with the families from GMS. So Friday, April 26th, right on time, as we've been talking about for the last couple of months, we expect work completion, or completed enough to bring students back to the building. So more on that. Mr. Gonke will be sharing a little bit more about completed enough and what that means. Monday, April 29th will be an emergency day for students. Just like we had an emergency day for students in January, when teachers needed to come over to University Center to get set up, we're going to do the same thing on the way back. The teachers and staff members do need time to get back into their classrooms, set things up, and get ready for students. Just like in January, we do not need to make up this day at the end of the school year. We are allowed, according to the state of Illinois, when there is some kind of an emergency, and this will count as an emergency, we're able to halt school for an individual school. We can do that twice in a school year and not make it up. We certainly are sorry to not have school for students that day, and we certainly are apologetic to our parents and guardians that we know that that'll be an inconvenience for them, but we hope that everyone will understand that we believe this will help us reopen school in a way that feels seamless for students. We don't want things to be bumpy and uncomfortable. We want children to be able to be welcomed in and the staff be ready for them. So Friday the 26th, work completion. Monday, April 29th, emergency day for students, staff on site moving in. And Tuesday, April 30th is a restart with students at GMS. And kind of more to come on that because we're in conversation still about what that will look like that day. And I'm going to hand this over to you, Mr. Gonke. Mr. Gonke's coming to the front. Here he comes. Okay. Scott's about to talk. Is that better?
How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, sorry, I didn't know what the first slide was going to be thrown in there. So you look at this picture and the hilly road that kind of describes the way this project has gone for me since I started here 4 weeks ago, something like that. To say the least, it's been hilly. I probably could have really put a roller coaster in there. But we are back on track. I'm happy to report, and I will guarantee you that the building will be ready by the 26th. When I met with Lynn and Chris, one of the things they asked me, do I have any questions of them? And I said, I need you to provide me with achievable goals that you want me to have while I'm here. And then I threw one back at them. My goal was to get this middle school open. So let's look at the areas that have been affected. So the areas highlighted in yellow are the classroom wings. 28 classrooms were impacted by frozen coils and flooded with water. In those classrooms now are almost totally demoed, so floor to ceiling. Ceiling tiles, flooring, any cabinetry or casework that was involved in it has been removed, and the floors have been prepped for floor tile. The floor tile was delivered today. They will start installing tomorrow. Ceiling tiles have already started going in the affected areas. So 28 classrooms, 28 coils. There were 36 coils total, which included the one in the gym mezzanine that flooded the gym, the one in the kitchen. There was fin tube radiators in the main office area, and then the staff lounge as well. We have gone, the classrooms had carpet tile in them. We're switching it to LVT, which is what you see on this floor right here, for a couple of reasons. It'll lower the maintenance cost for the district because it's no wax. And the other side of it is, let's face it, middle schoolers are not the cleanest, and it'll be easier to clean the spills up off of this floor than it will from the carpet.
No offense.
No offense, none at all. I've had my share of them in my house, so. Any questions on that part of it? So this is one of the hallways that's obviously been stripped of the ceiling tile in preparation, and then another look at it. As you see, we go along here. So this is the floor prepped. They put a skim coat of material down before they put the adhesive down. Almost all the classrooms now are at this stage. I want you also to notice the plastic, the care that these guys have taken to protect the materials that are in the classrooms and the furniture. Another hallway shot, again, covering the lockers to protect the contents and stuff as they're doing demolition. This is the basketball court completed. I think they did a fantastic job. The only thing that will not be in here are a couple of doors. Obviously, the floor was raised, and the metal doors that were inside of the gym do not fit anymore, and it's a 3-week lead time for those doors. I would have thought they would have already been ordered, but they were not. They are on order now and will be installed, but after the kids are in the building. This is another typical classroom. However, this is with all new ceiling tile. The addition, or the north end of the building, had a different ceiling tile. It's probably more like this than the tiles that you see in this picture. They're more of a 2x2 look with a reveal to them, a little more expensive tile, and I wanted something that was fire rated as well. So we went with this tile throughout the entire building instead of just in the first 2 wings. This is the staff lounge. So the flooring in the staff lounge was in pretty bad shape, but the insurance company said that they won't cover it because the damage there appeared to be from a previous flood. So I got creative and asked the flooring company, if I supply the tile, will you lay it? And they agreed to do that. So I found some tile in storage over at GMS, and that's what you see in its place. It may not be perfect, but it gets the job done, right? This is the kitchen area. Where that back light is, there is an HVAC unit above the ceiling. That unit froze and flooded that area. The ceiling tiles in the kitchen area are actually drywall covered with vinyl because for kitchen purposes, it's a lot easier to clean that than the porous tile that you see in this room. So you can imagine how much water it took to collapse that entire ceiling. So one of the other things we did was let's see if I can find let's go here. You see this soffit here. So that originally was sitting in the middle of the unit above it. So in other words, if you ever had to take that unit out, you'd have to demo the soffit. So I did not want the soffit going back in the same place. So I had to move it out and detach, because the soffit that was in there was actually attached to the HVAC unit, and the maintenance guys could not get in there to maintain it because of that situation. So I had to move the soffit out and extend the ceiling, and this is what it looks like now. So they have full access to everything, be able to change filters or replace a motor or an actuator. So all of the coils, all of the HVAC systems are up and operational. Right now, maybe too good. We found out today that the 3 boilers that are in there are all firing at the same time, and we're working on getting that resolved. But it's raised the boiler water temperature to 500 degrees, which we only need about 150 to 160. So we were working on that today and getting that resolved. But everything is completed. They're actually out of the building now, and it took some cajoling them to finally get in the building and get going. So interesting first couple of construction meetings for me, and I think Lynn will attest to that. So this is an air scrubber. It is in every hallway. It covers almost every hallway, or should cover every hallway. And as you can see, it's taking the air out of the spaces in that hallway and exhausting it out through a window. These are running 24/7. Because of that, last Friday, we did an indoor air quality study of the entire building, and I'm happy to report there was not one positive result in the entire building. I think a lot of that is attested to these air scrubbers running 24/7.
Positive result for?
No mold.
Okay,
No.
so make sure everyone understands what that means. Okay.
Yeah.
No mold.
Yeah. Negative counts, which is great, which I thought for sure with the amount of water that came in this building that we would get something, but it all came back negative, which is awesome. So that's all I got. Questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you, Scott. When you refer to the boilers, the 3 boilers, what's the expectation for them? Are they supposed to be staggered?
Yeah, so the reason you have that many boilers is there's redundancy, and they're supposed to alternate their use. So they're not all running at the same time. So really, it's an operational or a digital control system that they have in there, and it's an adjustment in that system that they made today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Come on, it can't be it.
I have a question about the scrubbers and indoor air quality in general. Context for this is I have friends and family who suffer from allergies and asthma, and I know a lot of the adhesives and new materials that are absolutely necessary also irritate some students' respiratory systems. So that's the context. So can you talk more about how we're protecting the indoor air quality for our students when they get back? I know you had the scrubbers. Is that the same as flushing out the building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's taking all the air in those areas out, and you saw the tube pushing it outside. Again, it's running 24/7, even while they're in there doing the work.
Nice.
Most importantly is the demolition portion of it, right? Because you're taking out ceiling tile and all that stuff that's above it. You talked about allergies, that would really be irritating.
Yes.
And then most of the adhesives and stuff that are out there, the paints and stuff, when you bring them into schools, you want them to be, they're called low VOC.
Right.
So that's what we're using on this project is low VOC products. And you shouldn't have any odor concerns when the kids come back, except it's gonna smell like clean, because as they're
no locker room.
as they're doing this, right, after they're finishing the spaces, they are cleaning from ceiling to floor.
Nice.
And then cleaning the furniture and putting it back into place. There are probably gonna be some adjustments needed by each individual teacher, but the goal actually for Friday of this week is to have 2 classrooms that are completely done, so when we do our walkthrough, we can get an idea of what they've done and what that's gonna look like, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Last question. So I'm curious about indoor air quality for some personal reasons too. And I'm wondering, is it appropriate to use the report that you just mentioned as a baseline so that we can continue to monitor indoor air quality in that building?
Yeah, so the funny thing about indoor air quality tests, they're subjective every day because mold is in the air outside normally, right? Aspergillus is the mold that's common in the air. And the way it works is they'll take a count outside and then they'll take a count inside. And if there's a higher disparity, then that's a key indicator that you need to clean that space. And sometimes all it is HEPA cleaning the space. They'll put an air filter, air scrubber in that room, and they will come in and just wipe the walls down and everything. Nothing major. But it's a moving target because the mold count in the air outside is going to change every day depending on the weather. So
So baseline information, it would require a number of tests over a number.
So when the last
years?
district I was at, I would do indoor air quality tests, and I would rotate it per building, right? So they had 3 buildings, so every 3 years, those spaces would get tested.
Every 3 years.
If there was an issue that a student was having or a staff member was having, and they would say, hey, Scott, could you come and test this space? Absolutely, I would have somebody come and test it just to make sure there wasn't an issue, or if there was an issue, we could remediate it. It is not required by the state as of yet. I did it to be more proactive than reactive. There are not a lot of school districts that do that. But you also have to be careful about what you wish for.
I understand, yes. Thank you so much. All right, thank you, Scott, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I actually had a question. So about the air scrubbers, does that cause any of dryness in the air that would affect any of the students?
No.
Okay.
They're not going to be running by the time the students get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the HVAC systems that are in each individual classrooms are called unit ventilators. And there's an organization called ASHRA that determines for schools what the quantity of fresh air that comes into those spaces. And that is dictated by the square footage of the space. So it is common that you constantly have a fresh air source coming into the space. Otherwise, you guys would be falling asleep during class, right? Because you're breathing out. You have CO2 going into the space, and without a fresh air exchange, the CO2 levels would climb, and you guys would get sleepy, and your teacher would be smacking you with a ruler. So, it was figurative. It was figurative. It was figurative. So, so there is constantly fresh air coming into the spaces, as much as 20%. During COVID, it could have increased substantially. To the point of almost 100% outside air coming in, except in the wintertime, because you don't want to freeze the coils. So, but there's always fresh air coming in the space. It's a requirement.
I have a question along the lines of the IAR as well. The recently performed testing, was that only on mold? Was there anything tested? This is probably a separate test for the asbestos removal in the gym. So the recently performed testing, that was only for mold, is that correct?
It was for a litany of different things. The report has been given to Dr. Glickman and to Mr. Wildman, and it is available for anyone to view. And you can take a look at the variety of things that they tested for.
Okay, good.
The asbestos testing is completely different, and it is more of a material test than it is an airborne test. When they do the testing for the IAQ, they actually bring a machine into the middle of the room, a little device, and it has a canister on it, and it sucks air for a certain amount of time, puts it in that canister, and then the canister is sent to the lab for testing. Completely different than asbestos.
All right, and I have another question. It's a serious question, but it's a little cheeky too. I have an 8th grader at GMS, and I'm wondering, has anyone been in the lockers since January 11th? And I'm thinking that my student probably has a January 11th lunch possibly in there still. That kind of thing?
So the answer to that is no, we have not been into the lockers. I can tell you that as we walk through the locker, it's not like we're smelling terrible things. We're not. We're also just thinking that some students may come to open their lockers and find just dust and on their locker, on their things. But we will have opportunities when the kids come back to do a nice clean out. Yeah.
So I'm also working with the cleaning company my goal when this building gets open is it'll be like coming back in the fall to start a new year, right? So I'm having all the floors stripped and waxed, and I want the place to be like they're just starting a new school year. That's my goal.
I have one. Scott, you mentioned the gym doors and how those aren't going to be ready. I believe there's one other item that we've been talking about that won't be completely ready, but we're moving in anyway. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Sure. So in the classroom spaces, there are pipes against the wall that connect all the unit ventilators, and they have an insulation wrap around them. We were proposing to cover them temporarily, build a temporary wall and cover them with a cheap mahogany luan, and then put maybe a plywood top on them so they could still stack stuff on them if they wish to. The insurance company is pushing back on that, saying that they don't think it's necessary. So that is in negotiation. But if they don't, when they come into the classroom, they're going to come into the look of pipes against the wall. It's not going to look pretty, but the casework or the cabinetry that's going up there is one of the longer lead time items, and has just recently been ordered as well. So we've been playing a lot of catch up on this project.
Yeah, and so thank you. And it is possible that we may be able to convince the insurance company that we can move forward with that Plan B. But if not, we feel that it is more important for our students to get back into GMS before the end of the school year and just be able to see pipes on the wall. We can make our way through that, right? So that's the plan right now. Other questions, or did that bring out any questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Scott.
No worries. Thank you.
We're really very grateful for your leadership. And lastly, one more piece of the superintendent's report. So we're talking here about where we are at the end of what's been happening at GMS, but I'm going to roll you back to the beginning, back to January, and I want to tell you that yesterday we learned that our presentation at next November's joint annual conference has indeed been selected. So next November, several CCSD 46 leaders will be presenting how to open a school in 5 days. And we look forward to sharing our story with school board members and administrators from across the state of Illinois. And that's the end of the superintendent's report.
Thank you, everybody, for that. That'll be exciting to be at. That brings us to our consent agenda. I do need a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda, which includes the personnel addendum that was emailed to us earlier today.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Nash,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
and Mack.
Aye. Okay, we do have 2 action items this evening. First, I need a motion to approve the resolution of non-renewal of probationary teachers not in their final year of probation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Albert.
Aye.
Okay, and the second action item we have is a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the reduction in force of licensed teachers. I need a motion for that.
I will make that motion as well.
I'll second.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you.
So at my last at the last board meeting, I presented the preliminary staffing plan. I'll do so again later, round 2 of this meeting. But these 2 staff positions, a school psychologist at GMS and a art teacher at Avon and Meadowview, we are riffing these 2 individuals not because we have to cut these positions, but these are full-time positions. We're looking to make these full-time positions. They partially were. School psych was a full-time position. There was more involved with, there was more FTE for that art position. And we were unable to fill those positions last year. They were late resignations, or school psychologists are just really hard to find. We were able to find 2 individuals who are currently retired teachers, and due to TRS regulations, they can only work 120 days. And so our goal is to find individuals that are not limited by TRS. And we've had a very good conversation with both of these individuals. They understand. They're both very good at what they do. And should we not be able to find a full-time staff member or more FTE for the art position, both have expressed interest in wanting to come back. Yep.
Okay.
LaCroix,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
and Nash.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Our unfinished business of the evening is back to Dr. Wolk for an updated staffing plan.
So I just mentioned the last meeting, we did the preliminary staffing plan and student enrollment projections. This is round 2. I shared at that last meeting that I would be coming back, and here I am. So we always want to talk about our mission and tie everything that we do back to that. Our staffing plan and our student enrollment is about empowering learners. Our staff is the most important thing that influence children's achievement levels, as well as cultivating a community, yes. So not much has changed since the last time I presented. The only thing that really changed was what I just shared, but sharing with you the student enrollment numbers, I cut that portion out. Not much, nothing's changed there. We have, a kid or 2 here and there, but not enough to make an impact on our section numbers. So as I mentioned last time, the one-way dual language program at Meadowview, we will be moving that from Meadowview and splitting those students up based on their address. So some students will end up, if they were a Woodview family, they will now be going to Prairie View. If they were a Meadowview family, they'll now be going to Avon. And so that's going to have our bilingual, our one-way dual program at 2 schools. There was just not enough students enrolled to continue that program at Meadowview. We also have a slight decrease in our student enrollment across the district. Remember, we always take a look at across the district, not specific buildings. It ebbs and flows everywhere, but approximately 40 students less are projected for next year. And as I shared last time, we use the cohort survival method. And then kindergartners are always the wild card. We don't know who's moving in, who's moving out. We do know siblings. Last night we had the kindergarten meet and greets, so hopefully some more registrations start coming in and we have a better idea as we get towards the end of the school year. We will be reducing 3 classroom sections throughout the district based on enrollment, as well as reducing an interventionist position at Meadowview that was temporarily added this year due to a lack of enrollment last year at Woodview, or at Meadowview. I am happy to share that last time I said, I'm going to put RIF in 2 different portions here. RIFing of staff members, I just shared the 2 that we were going to RIF. Now I'm going to talk about the sections that are closing. I'm happy to share that after taking a look at our current positions, we are able to offer those staff members that sections are closing. We're able to offer them a position elsewhere in the district. So we will not be losing any individuals, any staff members based on that. And then, as I mentioned, the school psych and the art teacher. And that brings me to the end. Any questions?
I have a question. I know you said, Dr. Wolf, that the kindergarten is like the wild card, right? You don't know who's coming in. Do we have any like historical data that we can forecast off of, or do we not feel like that would give us enough statistical confidence to make decisions?
So the information that we go off of, we know our early registrations. So I've been keeping an eye on that. We have some buildings that have pretty high registrations, not resignations, registrations already for next school year. And we opened it up and we made it more of an incentive to register early. So that's great. We know siblings. So if it's a family that's come through our district, we have an idea, thanks to our student information system, where you report the individuals that live in the household. So we have that information. The information that we cannot just, we just don't know is who are those first-time kindergartners? Who are those, the family that haven't been in our district before, haven't gotten registered early because maybe they don't know, you know. Maybe they're not following us on social media. Leslie pushes out stuff all the time, but it's only as good as what you read, you know, as if you're looking. So those are our wild cards that we don't know. You know, we've found that if we predict the same number as what we currently have, so if there's 100 kids in kindergarten right now at Woodview, there's likely to be approximately 100 next year. It doesn't vary that much. Yes, there are years where all of a sudden, like, you get an influx of, hey, there's an additional 20 kids. Or in the case of Meadowview last year, where we had to do that interventionist position, kids moved out. You know, over the past couple of years, the housing market has been kind of unpredictable, and we're still seeing that right now, you know. So we have a good number, or a good guess, but it's very difficult to predict.
Okay, so in terms of a metric that our district looks at, though, to forecast, it would be like the housing reports or things like that?
We try and monitor that as best we can, yep.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
So along those lines, I imagine that our district has a relationship with a lot of the area realtors?
We know a
and
few, yeah.
And they're pushing, saying, hey, get registered if it's a new family to the district?
Yes, and we can always reach out to them and encourage them to do so.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know what, the families that are moving in are prepared for that. It's maybe that, you know, 4 or 5 year old that, oh, we forgot, you know, or not sure because they haven't been through this system before.
I have a quick question, and this might be for Dr. Diaz and for you. Is there, and my brain is going in about 4 different directions right now, but is there a way to get information about registration and other information for newcomers through, in this constellation somehow?
I mean, if they're currently in our system, yes, but
I'm not asking a great question, but through the real estate agents, do we have partnerships with them that we can get information about newcomers?
well,
Okay.
newcomers, I don't know. Are you able to ask that? And are they buying homes?
Correct. Most of them are not actually buying homes, and also no, I'm not allowed to ask for but when they come through registration, then we know because of different documentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have two items this evening on our new business list. The first one is the board meeting calendar for 24-25. Any questions or comments about that? But I think it's
I don't have
Wednesday
a lot to
evenings at
say.
6
It's
o'clock.
pretty, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's
Okay.
a list of dates, like
And
you've seen before.
We'll be here.
And the meetings will be here.
We'll show up. Okay. And then the next piece on the new business is DM Group Student Services presentation.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started, board. I have a nice group of people behind me. Most of them are going to be presenting most of this information. And so actually, as people come forward, we'll have them introduce themselves. We'll also have a slide where we introduce kind of everyone who's done this work together. But tonight, we're going to be talking about strengthening our student supports, specifically the Student Services Opportunity Review and the results of that review and our plans moving forward. I do want to pause on our mission. This is all about empowering learners and creating equity. And you will hear tonight as we talk through this, areas where we feel we've gotten some great feedback about how we are empowering learners, along with places that we can continue to improve. Same with creating equity. Some really nice areas where we've got some lovely accommodations, and then growth areas as well. So our agenda tonight is to talk about the goals and methodology of this process. We're going to look at some district data. We're going to hear those commendations. We're going to talk about the opportunities that we have for growth in the future. We'll talk about implementation planning and next steps. And I'm going to hand it over to Tess.
Good evening, all board president and board members and community. My name is Tess Nicholson Powers, and I am with District Management Group. You can see our name a little there on the screen. My organization back in Boston, we partner with school districts all across the country to really focus on how do you create systemic change, both through education best practices, but also management best practices. So work across the country, but I've worked with over 50 districts in Illinois alone, so excited to be with you all here tonight. So what our project goals were, just getting a really deep understanding of current practices of student services in the district, how students with disabilities are supported, multilingual learners, any students receiving intervention support, comparing that to best practice, and then identifying areas, as Dr. Glickman said, that you are very strong, and areas of opportunity. So all in service of identifying what systems and structures can be strengthened to better support students. So we did this through a few phases. First, we did a lot of data analysis. You'll see just a little of that tonight. We convened a guiding coalition. You'll see those folks in a moment. We talked to a lot of people. We held focus groups and interviews. We conducted a time study, and you'll see I'll talk a little bit more about what that entailed. And then this last phase, we were supposed to end in January, but a school closure pushed us a little. And then had a plan to implement. So we convened actually in this room, and I'll share with you that plan as we get further along. So I'm going to have Lynn here.
Good evening, I'm Lynn Miscelonis. It's my pleasure to highlight the members that worked together for this. Lynn Glickman, Amy Gluck, Chris Wildman, Heather Lorenzo, Chris Wolk, Stephanie Diaz, Linda Mizwicki, Jana Donahue, Matt Malamed, Vince Murray, Marcus Smith, Laura Morgan, Lynn Miscelonis, and Coy Flores.
Great. And yeah, just wanted to highlight too, this really represented a diverse group from across the district to share perspectives from district leaders, school leaders, staff, et cetera, to ensure that all those voices were at the table. In terms of how we developed our findings, so you can see both qualitative evidence from all of those different roles we spoke with, including district leaders, school leaders, staff, and families, and then also some quantitative data analysis, so looking at student outcomes, that schedule sharing that I'll talk about, to create both impactful but also feasible opportunities. And the schedule sharing that we conducted, so we actually have a proprietary software where staff over the course of 1 week, this was back in October, share their schedules as they are lived that week reality. I taught in New York City, and I know not every week is the same. But we had many roles participate, essentially any staff member whose schedule changes over the course of a day or week. So general education teachers, classroom teachers did not participate. We know where they are. But this really helped us understand how time as a resource is allocated, so we could see how much time is spent supporting students versus in meetings and all other tasks. How does that look across schools and the district? So that is how we approached this study. So before we dive into those accommodations and opportunities, just want to go through some grounding data. And before I even do this, I want to name the purpose of grounding in this data is to highlight that you all engaged in this deep study because you want better outcomes for students and equitable outcomes for all. So essentially what this slide is saying, there's a lot on here, is that the achievement gap between students with disabilities and those without persists from 2019 or pre-pandemic to 2023 post-pandemic. What I want to call out here, so you can see on the left, that's 2019. You have IAR performance in ELA, grades 3 through 8. The navy bar is scores for students without disabilities. The orange is scores for students with disabilities. What to call out here, the achievement gap has actually decreased slightly. However, that's because students without disabilities have seen a decrease as well. We're seeing this across the country, of course, since the pandemic. So you'll see in some of the opportunities and recommendations, it's not just focusing, say, for students with disabilities or multilingual learners, but really looking at all students, since we know supports for all students will benefit all students. So you'll see this same story here in math. The slide didn't change that much. We also looked at achievement between monolingual learners and multilingual learners, so same setup. What I do want to call out here, so yes, still a gap, but you can see that blue bar actually multilingual learners are performing a bit higher than pre-pandemic, so just all of those targeted supports they've received. You can see in math, they're performing same level as they were in 2019. So of course, still work to do, but I think really wanted to highlight that those proficiency levels for multilingual learners have returned to where they were or are increasing. So that is grounding us in why this work even occurred. As I mentioned, this really examined the systems and structures. There are many instructional practices already being implemented by the people behind me and outside of this room, but we always like to ground there in why this is important. So going through some of the accommodations, so I'm going to go through 4. There were many more, but these bubble to the top. So the first I want to highlight is just the authentic collaboration that staff talked about across the district. So I'll read one quote, and I'm going to have to look at my papers because I don't have my glasses. I'll read one, and then I'll let you read the others. But in the middle there, a classroom teacher said, "The whole team, program assistants, social workers, OT, occupational therapists, special education teachers, they really have a team approach to problem solving and figuring out what works best for a kiddo. I would be lost without them for sure." So that comes from a classroom teacher, and I think really highlights, they pretty much mentioned every role in a building and how they work together. The second I want to highlight is the behavioral supports and some of the partnerships that the district has engaged with. And so staff really express that students are receiving those social, emotional learning supports, behavioral supports that they need, most notably from the partnership with Surpass. So a district leader at the bottom there saying board certified behavior analysts, those are BCBAs, are able to provide tremendous support to teachers. They go into a classroom and are a partner in problem solving around student behavior to make a plan moving forward. And I think just this highlights you have this partnership. It's not them just coming in and taking ownership, but really actually working with staff to build their capacity. Third, we heard just incredible things about elementary reading interventions and the positive impact that they've had. So reading specialists, this is their voice. So at the bottom there, they said, just finished MAP testing, and I only had 3 kids that I needed to benchmark for the entire grade. When I first started, that would have been a much bigger number of students. So the impact and investment in those interventions. And then lastly, we heard just so much about the in-district programming that you all are able to provide, which ensures that students can stay in their community learning as much as possible. So at the top there, principal reported, we have a lot of different learning opportunities for our kiddos. We have the Link or Mile program for students who have more severe or focused learning needs, as well as opportunities within all 3 buildings to deliver learning to them. We can really keep kids with us, and there is a lot of programmatic strengths. And in having worked with a lot of districts now, this is an area where districts are really struggling with right now, so wanted to highlight that as a true strength of yours. So with that, all of the good things, I am going to pass it over to Heather to talk about some of the opportunities.
Thank you, and good evening. I'm just going to start by sharing that a few factors contributed to why this opportunity review was conducted. The first being it has been several years since a review like this has been conducted, so it's time to re-examine our work and our effectiveness. The second being that we have a very different, changing nation, state, district community in our educational system, and it's important to be responsive to that. And lastly, we've been discussing the various work and workload connected with the work of servicing our students with both our teachers and our related professionals, and we needed to make sure that we were targeting those areas as well by conducting this opportunity review. That was my fear I'd click incorrectly. 5 opportunities surfaced through this opportunities review. These will be detailed opportunity by opportunity in later slides. So I am not going to read them in detail. And I'm sure this looks familiar to you. But we are making sure that we create the visualization like we do with all of the other strategic planning initiatives in this tree map, and our mapping of our action plan will be displayed in this format, and then we'll continue to highlight what actual action steps are coming up later on in this presentation. But it will look very similar to how we will be updating you in our strategic plan, and this will be in better detail and ongoing updates as we move forward. I'm now going to pass it over to Linda Mizwicki.
Hi. So, okay. This opportunity is around communication and consistent communication structures. We want to continue to look at what critical information we need to communicate to staff and proactively plan for that. Some things we've been working on is consistency with the teaching and learning messages that come out, and making sure that our student services are also embedded in there, as well as what specific information our staff needs to hear and how best to hear that. We also want to look at the role of the special education facilitator, which is a new position to our district, and looking at how we can refine that role and plan ahead a communication for that next year after we've reflected on that. And we want to look at how to utilize our team leaders and our special ed facilitators on the ground in the schools to increase the capacity of the administration and be a liaison between the schools and the district office. Another opportunity is looking at consistency. And consistency when speaking about IEPs really means consistency about the decision-making process so that IEPs can be truly individualized. So keep that in mind when we say consistency. But we want to look at the expectations for direct service and how those services are delivered to students with an eye at across the special education teachers and across campuses and with an eye on that workload. We also want to look at consistency in writing IEPs so that our staff have increased skill in those individualized minutes, accommodations, and modifications, and looking at what can be consistent look-fors that will lead us toward individualized IEPs. And thinking about the procedures for transition years as students move into kindergarten from 4th to 5th and 6th to 7th grade, we want to make sure that there's consistent communication for the schools and administration so that those IEPs meet the students' needs and can be individualized for those students. And now I'm going to pass it off to Amy.
Hi. So these next three opportunities all fit into really supporting all of our students and looking more at that tier 1. So that's why I'm up here to really share a little bit more about these. So this first one, opportunity 3, is supporting our multilingual learners. We know, as you've heard many times as we've talked at these board meetings, that we've had an increase in our number of multilingual learners in our district. And so a piece of that has come out of this opportunity review is looking at how are we supporting our teachers? How are we building their development with professional development so that they are increasing their knowledge in how to support our students. And that became very clear through this. So looking at building some district-wide knowledge around that, providing professional development priorities for supporting our multilingual students within classrooms across content areas, and really focusing in on those 5, 6, and 7, 8 levels as students are moving between classes and between teachers. And then utilizing our instructional coaches to be able to help to do that as we are focusing on linguistically responsive teaching. So that is one of the opportunities. The next is then talking a little bit further about instructional coaches and our instructional coaching model. This is really looking at how do we refine our coaching model and setting guidelines for coaching cycles that are happening within the building, and creating some consistency with that role between buildings. What is interesting about this is that even before we found out about these findings, this is something we already started this year. And we actually have a consultant that's been coming in and working with our instructional coaches, and she's continuing next year as well. And she's providing what we're calling a coaching academy to create consistency for our instructional coaches and the models that they're using within the buildings, and really defining what coaching is and what coaching is not. And looking at what does a coaching cycle look like and how do they work with teachers throughout their buildings to be able to support instruction to better support our students. And so all of that is what also came from Opportunity 4. And then Opportunity 5 is clarifying the role of our program assistants. And so this is not just program assistants for our students with IEPs, but it's also looking at our program assistants that support our reading specialists for Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction, and also looking at our program assistants that support our multilingual learners. So how do we need to spend some time looking at clarifying those roles and responsibilities for them and outlining what that looks like within the buildings in order to create, again, some consistency for each of those program types, develop some clear reporting structures for all of that, and then providing just some clarity and consistency in the role for all of the adults within our system. And I think I'm turning it over to Dr. Glickman.
Thank you. So Dr. Diaz pulled this slide up earlier, and I just want to pause on it again. So, Board, as you know, over the past number of years, since we created a new strategic plan, we have every year communicated with you about how we intend to work through steps for each of our strategic goals on a yearly basis. And so you're used to seeing things like this, but they're color-coded. It shows you what we've already done, and it shows you what we're doing next year, and it shows you what'll happen the years beyond that. You will see this information in some form again when we come to you in June with an update of our strategic plan and an update of our strategic goals. It is possible that it might look very much like this, because we may just provide a whole new strategic, a whole new student services goal map for you, just like this. And although all of the other goal maps that you've been seeing, or goal trees that you've been seeing, have come directly out of the strategic plan, and this one wouldn't, we felt comfortable doing that because, frankly, over a year ago, you approved us to bring in the DM group to do this work, and we know you want us to forward it. So that might be one way we bring it to you. It is also possible that instead of giving you this kind of a map, we may just embed this information in the tree maps that we already have, because they're so tightly connected to the other work that we're doing. So we have to figure that piece out and talk about it. But one way or another, you will see what our plans are moving forward, what will happen next year and what will happen the years beyond. All right, let's move forward to implementation planning. I think I'm handing this to you, Tess.
All right, so yeah, I'll talk about, so this is the opportunities you just heard, and want to call out, we're very specific to call this an opportunity review and not an audit. One, because audit sounds scary, but two, an audit is backwards looking, where we really want this to be forwards looking. So as I talk about implementation, the group that you saw earlier, the Guiding Coalition, came together to see this information and ranked the impact and feasibility of each opportunity. So you can see here, all of them fell into the high impact, high feasibility quadrant, which was exciting. But we zoomed in a little further here, and you can see the top opportunity that the group rated as most impactful was consistency in student services, which Linda brought us through, that second opportunity. And this is really important for us because, one, we know if you try and do everything well, you'll do nothing well. So even when there's 5 opportunities, we like to whittle it down at least for one year. So the group came together on this opportunity and did some implementation planning, first by defining success. So what would success look like if you all had consistency in student services? As Linda pointed out, it would not mean that all IEPs look the same, but very opposite, that they would be individualized. Second, we proactively identified any barriers to implementing this opportunity so that as the district outlines those key milestones, you can proactively plan for those barriers that inevitably will come up. And so this is the structure we used. Here's an example for, if you remember, the consistency in student services opportunity had 3 considerations underneath. So this is an example plan that the group put together for that consideration on ensuring IEP consistency. So outlined objectives for what would be true for teachers, for staff, for families if there was IEP consistency, all in service of if there are consistent systems, structures, processes, then students will receive those individualized supports that they need. So those were the overall objectives, and then measures of success. The group really focused on ensuring that SMART goals met that SMART criteria, so being measurable, et cetera. And then secondly, of course, if this were true, then you would see students hitting those goals. So this plan, just an example here, as Dr. Glickman said, all of them will be planned out further, but having this plan will allow then the district to measure, are we successful in this area or not, and we are aligned on that definition of success and objectives to start, not later down the road. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Dr. Glickman.
Okay, we're in the home stretch. All right, so we're going to talk about next steps, and then I have a few thank yous I want to share that I think will kind of wrap this all together. So first of all, as we've talked about, we need to develop really clear action plans for prioritized opportunities. And I want to pause on that. Actually, I'm going to put it together because here's one of my thank yous. I really want to thank DM Group for providing us with opportunities that we can move forward with that make sense and are have clarity to them. I certainly have had the unfortunate opportunity to see other kinds of reviews like this, where a school district will just get a laundry list of things to do and kind of no idea of where to start. And people are moving around in this committee and this committee and this committee and this committee, and no one knows what anybody else is doing, and it's frankly kind of a mess. There's no mess here. This is just some nice, clear, moving forward. Here are opportunities to improve our system, to better support our students. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. So thank you, Tess. And then communication about these findings to our staff and community. And so I do want to share with you what our plans are, at least on the short term moving forward. So DM Group has provided us with a white paper, or what we're really going to call an executive summary of this information. That will be shared with staff tomorrow. It goes through all of this information, but it's not in slide form because slides really have to be explained, right? If you just see blanks, slides without communication that goes with them, a lot of information can be misinterpreted. So this is just a few pages. I think it's 4 pages long for our staff to be able to read to get this information. It'll go to staff first. Next Wednesday is a day that we're sending out another district newsletter. Yes, Leslie? Yeah. And we will be sharing that white paper or that executive summary with our community that way too. So, and at that point, we'll also put it up on our website. So that will be completely transparent for anyone to take a look at. Then the next time the next time we'll communicate about it will be in June, when we come back to you board to talk about our strategic plan and our strategic goals, and then we'll share some information with the community as well. I want to thank all of the people who are part of this process. It's been a very rewarding process. It's been a positive process, but we haven't backed away from difficult feedback or difficult information. So really what I have seen is that everyone who's been a part of this has said, let's share our information openly and let's gather our information openly. And that's what allows us to move forward. And board, I really want to thank you because you approved us moving forward with this consultancy last year. So thank you for that. And with that, we're ready for questions.
I'll start over there.
So this was fabulous, and I'm fascinated by the process that you used. It's also a lot of information to take in, not having seen it before. So I'm wondering if it's possible for us to get a copy of the slideshow so that we can take a little more time to digest the information. Is that possible? Thank you.
That was just going to be my comment too, because I know I have some questions in there, but it's so fast that I don't have time to think about it. However, what I'm really, really impressed by is the framework and the storytelling around the opportunities. That really resonates with me because it's impacted my family here in this district, and the opportunities that I always saw my oldest child got in this district is really visualized in this work. So it's really important work that you've undertaken, and it's really exciting. And I look forward to actually delving into a little bit more detail myself too. So thank you for that.
I had one question. Well, I'm sure I'll have more, but the one question that jumped out to me was the slide that was talking about proficiency levels, and I think Dr. Gluck, maybe you were speaking to it, and it was showing correlation between pre-pandemic, post-pandemic with math scores, and it seemed like irrespective of multilingual or not, yes, the slot here, that there's just some opportunity more globally with regards to math. I'm just wondering if there's any like root cause analysis or anything we've done in that space.
Yeah, so if you remember, I don't remember how many board meetings ago, but when I did at a board meeting, I shared our data with you. And it was similar because it was our IAR data that we talked about on that day. And that is an area of focus for us specifically in math, where we're having a lot of conversation about intervention. What does that look like? How are we providing support for students? And also looking at our students that are performing at higher levels to make sure and ensure that we're providing them extension opportunities as well. And then the other piece is we have currently a math planning and design team PDT meeting currently to have conversations about our standards, what instruction looks like, and we will be having more conversation about the resource that we're using as our contract with our current resources up at the end of next school year. So it's a lot of conversation that we're having.
Before we close, I just want to draw a parallel for you, board. So I've lost track of time, but I'm going to say probably 3 years ago, we stood here and talked with you about the results of our equity audit. Does that sound right? 3 years ago? Yeah, I'm going with that. And then from that equity audit, and we did use the word audit then, we built out action steps. And those action steps became everyone's work. And by the way, we still have a bunch of that work to continue doing, and you'll see us talk about that when we're here again in June. But that became everyone's work because equity is important for everyone in our school system. You will note this was not a program review that was specifically for students who receive special education services, nor was it specific to staff who are responsible for those students, those special education services. This program review encompassed all of our school district and all of the kinds of special programs that we have to make sure that all of our students can succeed at very high levels. So the work ahead of us is work for all of us. And I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, Mrs. Miller has one more question.
This is for you, Tess. It seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that somehow your business model puts a boundary around instructional systems and structures, correct?
Yep.
So I'm wondering, are there any partner organizations that you work with that would add a look at the physical buildings and structures that kids are actually in? Because we know that health is a huge obstacle to equity. So do you have partnerships with any other consultancies?
Yeah, are you saying like looking at the actual facilities and environments? Yes. We don't have one direct partner, but I can certainly ask my colleagues to see if some of our other partner districts have partnered with anyone else on that specifically.
That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Just someone that would take a look at the physical building, the nutrition, kind of the basic physical needs of our kids that have so much impact on their cognition.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting at.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
No, well, I just feel like this is an appropriate moment to pause and be thankful that the referendum passed, because as we know, updating student service spaces is one of the plans around that comes from the passage of the referendum. So we're looking forward to doing that work. All right, thank you so much, board.
Okay, that brings us to topics for future agenda items, and I'll throw it back to you, Dr.
I'm coming. Hold on. Okay. All right. Well, so the next time we're together, board, is actually next Tuesday with a special board meeting. That's the monitoring district performance, saying what we mean and doing what we say. Our workshop that we are doing together that evening, along with Laura Martinez from IASB. So that meeting is just the board and me. It will be here. There are no action items. It's a special board meeting. It is open to the public. It's still a public meeting, but we're not going to be streaming it. So that's happening next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yes, 6 o'clock. The next meeting also will be, it's not a special meeting, but it will not be our usual format either. On April 24th, we will begin the meeting the way we typically do, with all, well, definitely we'll say the pledge, and do all of the initial pieces. We will have, we'll do our consent agenda. What did I just say? Consent, I don't know what I just said. Consent, yeah, consent agenda. We're going to be bringing administrative contracts to you that evening, board, but that's all we have planned for that night in terms of anything that's action, because the rest of the meeting will be a sustainability conversation that I think, actually I was going to ask Stephen and Christy if we want to do that agenda building together, if that makes sense.
Sure.
To do, yeah, okay, so we'll talk about setting up a time to.
I just said sure, and I want to make sure I know what I said sure to. So are
That
you
will-
asking me to attend the agenda?
To
building
everything.
Yes, indeed.
Braden normally goes
Yes,
to, then I
and
would
we'll
go
have-
in her place? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
That
but
was
I
a
wanted
better way to say it. Yep, exactly. So that's April 24th. May 15th, just like we had our Park Wolves with us that tonight, we'll have GMS student reps with us on May 15th. I imagine they also will be talking a little bit about what their transition has been back to GMS OG, as I like to call it. We'll also do our equity action plan update that evening. And I believe Mr. Wildman will be providing a preliminary budget that night. Yep, okay. June 5th, we don't have anything specific for that night, but, don't go making other plans yet. And June 26th, we'll be doing a goals update. And then we're in July. Okay?
Sounds good. Do we have any public comments signed up down there on the list down there?
We do not.
Thank you, Dr. Wolk. We do have, yes,
May I
Ms.
interrupt
Miller,
you,
please, go ahead.
Sorry.
Interrupt away.
Thank you. For future agenda items, I know we talked about this, and forgive me, I just do not remember. We had talked about a fine arts update to understand the status of the fine arts department, and I lost track of it.
We had. I think you're not the only one who lost track of it. And we can see what we might be able to include between now and the end of the school year. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a closed session this evening, so we are going to move to adjourn into closed session in accordance with Illinois Public Act 5 ILCS paragraph 120/2 for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including a hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. I need a motion to move into closed session, and we do not anticipate doing any additional business after the closed session, so we will adjourn away from that session immediately. I need a motion to go into closed session, please.
So moved?
Second.
Okay?
LaCroy,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye?
and Albert.
Aye.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody.